Listen, I have been a survival instructor for the Galactic Academy for 73 cycles. 73. I have trained Krellian shock troops, who can breathe methane and crush steel with their mandibles. I have taught Vothine navigators, who see in 16 dimensions. I have even, and this still gives me nightmares, supervised a class of hive-mind Quelix, who argued with themselves for 6 hours straight about whether to build a shelter, or eat it. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for the humans. My name is Instructor Vax Qorin, and this is the story of how I almost died of a stress-induced carapace molt on what humans casually referred to as a fun weekend outdoors. The whole disaster started 3 months ago when Command decided, in their infinite wisdom, to integrate human cadets into our advanced survival training program. Integration. That was the word they used. Like we were just adding a new flavor to the ration packs. Nobody mentioned that humans were from a Class-9 Deathworld. Nobody told me their idea of mild discomfort would rewrite every safety protocol we had. The first human to arrive was Corporal Jake Martinez, a lean male with an unsettling smile and eyes that looked like they had seen things. Terrible things. He walked into my office, dropped a massive pack on the floor with a thud that cracked the tile, and said, "So, where is this dangerous planet you are taking us to?" I pulled up the holo display, showing him Kravos 7. A Class 5 hostile world. Acidic rain. Predators with electromagnetic sensing organs. Temperatures that swing 40 degrees in an hour. I watched his face carefully, waiting for the fear response. He leaned forward, squinting at the display. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. "This looks like Colorado in spring," he said. I did not know what a Colorado was. I was afraid to ask. The rest of the human squad arrived over the next week. There was Lieutenant Maya Okonkwo, a female with decorative scars on her arms that she claimed were from a hiking accident. Private First Class Tommy Park, who kept asking if the planet had anything that could actually hurt someone. And Specialist Ruth Alvarez, who brought 17 kilograms of something she called trail mix, and offered it to everyone despite the fact that it smelled like concentrated death. Our non-human cadets were a standard mix. 4 Zelthorians, tall and grey with respiratory systems designed for low-oxygen worlds. 2 Planari, insectoid beings with exoskeletons harder than standard combat armor. And 6 Morvelli, aquatic breathers who required moisture suits to function in dry environments. The briefing before departure should have been my first warning. Kravos 7 is rated as a Class 5 hostile environment, I announced, my translation matrix projecting my words across species boundaries. You will be dropped with minimal supplies. You will have 72 hours to survive. Rescue extraction will not occur unless you trigger your emergency beacon, which results in automatic failure. The non-human cadets shifted nervously. Proper reaction, Jake raised his hand. Question, sir. Are we allowed to eat the local wildlife? I blinked all 3 of my eyes in sequence. If you can catch and safely prepare it without dying from toxins, yes. But I should note that Kravos 7 fauna have a 94% lethality rate when consumed by most species. Cool, cool. He nodded like I had just told him the cafeteria menu. What about the plants? 78% are poisonous. The rest will cause severe digestive distress. Maya leaned over to Tommy and whispered, loud enough for my excellent hearing to catch. So basically mushroom season back home. What was a mushroom? Why did these humans keep referencing things that sounded ominous? We loaded onto the transport ship the next morning. The Zelthorians were reviewing survival manuals on their data tablets. The Planari were testing their emergency beacons. The Morvelli were checking and rechecking their moisture suit seals. The humans were playing cards. Does anyone want to review the emergency protocols? I asked, standing in the center of the cargo bay. Ruth looked up from her hand. We are good, thanks. We did a weekend thing like this in the Rockies last year. Well, minus the acid rain, I guess. The Rockies. Mountain range back on Earth. Gorgeous views. Lots of bears. I checked my data pad. Bears. Earth predators. Averaging 200 kilograms. Capable of running at 48 kilometers per hour. I felt my breathing tubes constrict. You went to a place with those creatures. For recreation. Oh yeah, Jake added, discarding a card. You have to hang your food in trees so they do not eat it at night. One time this grizzly tried to get into my tent. Scared the hell out of me. He said this while smiling. I made a note to request hazard pay. The drop went smoothly, technically speaking. We descended through Kravos 7's turbulent atmosphere, the ship rattling like it was coming apart. The non-human cadets were strapped in tight, some quietly praying to their various deities. The humans were looking out the windows, pointing at things. Oh man, look at those lightning storms, Tommy said, nose pressed against the reinforced glass. Bet the fishing is great here, Maya added, fishing. On a planet where the water could dissolve organic tissue. Sure. Why not? We landed in Zone 7, a region of dense jungle canopy, acidic groundwater, and approximately 67 documented predator species. I opened the rear hatch, and the smell hit us first. Sulfur compounds mixed with decaying vegetation and something else. Something that smelled like fear should smell if fear had a smell. "All right," I announced, activating my environmental suit's external speakers. "You have 72 hours. Your packs contain basic supplies, water purification tablets, emergency rations, and your beacon. The rest is up to you. We will be monitoring from orbit. Good luck." The non-human cadets filed out nervously, clustering together immediately. Standard group cohesion behavior. Smart, the humans walked out, stopped, and just stood there. Looking around. Breathing in the toxic air through their filter masks. "This is awesome," Jake said. "Seriously gorgeous," Maya agreed, adjusting her pack straps. Ruth was already pulling out something from her bag. "A collapsible fabric structure. I am thinking we set up camp near that rock formation. Good sight lines, natural windbreak, close to the water source. Works for me." Tommy started walking, just like that. Just walking. Into one of the most hostile environments known to the Galactic community. Like it was a stroll through a park, whatever park was, these humans made it sound pleasant. I retreated to the ship, and we lifted off. My co-instructor, Thresk, a Hylenian with excellent tactical sense, pulled up the monitoring feeds. We had microcameras on every cadet, vital sign monitors, the works. Credits on who triggers their beacon first. Thresk asked, settling into his station. "The Morvelli team," I predicted. "Their moisture suits have a 42% failure rate in high-humidity jungle environments." We watched the feeds. The Zelthorians found a cave within the first hour. Textbook shelter construction. They started a fire using standard plasma igniters, set up a watch rotation, and rationed their supplies. Perfect execution. The Planari climbed trees, using their natural advantages. They wove branches into platforms and established a defensive perimeter. Also perfect. The Morvelli stayed near a stream, building a filtration system for the water. Slower than ideal, but solid. Then we switched to the human feed. Jake had climbed a tree. Without equipment. Just climbed it. 30 meters up. He was looking around with what appeared to be antique optical enhancement devices. "Binoculars," Thresk said, reading the equipment manifest. "Pre-spaceflight technology. Why would he use that instead of his standard scanner? Unknown." Jake climbed down, landing with a thud that should have broken his ankles. He walked over to where the others had already set up a camp. Not a survival shelter. A camp. There was a fire going, not from plasma igniters, but from actual burning wood. Ruth was stirring something in a metal container over the flames. "Is she cooking?" I stared at the feed. Thresk checked the data. Affirmative. Local plants. Cross-referencing with toxicity database. Alarms started blaring. "Those plants are Class 3 toxins." I shouted. We watched in horror as Ruth tasted whatever was in the pot, made a face, and added something from her trail mix bag. "She is going to die," I whispered. Maya walked up, took the offered spoon, tried some, and nodded. "Needs salt, but not bad." They were eating poison. They were eating poison and critiquing the seasoning. Tommy returned to camp dragging something. I zoomed in the camera. It was a Kravos stalker. 2-meter-long predator. Razor-sharp claws. Venomous bite. Dead. "How did he kill that?" Thresk asked. Tommy dropped it near the fire. "Found this guy near the water. He seemed aggressive, so I dealt with it." "Dealt with it?" Jake looked impressed. "With what?" Tommy held up a rock. "A rock?" "Just a rock." Threw it at his head. "Worked pretty good. My training manual did not cover this. There was no protocol for cadets who killed apex predators with thrown rocks and then complained about food seasoning." Night fell on Kravos 7. The temperature dropped 18 degrees. The non-human teams huddled in their shelters, monitoring their heat sources carefully. The humans sat around their fire, and I realized with slowly dawning horror that they were telling stories. Laughing. One of them, I think it was Ruth, pulled out a stringed instrument and started playing music. On a death world. During a survival exercise. "This is not normal behavior," Thresk observed. "No. It is not." Hour 6. The Morvelli team had their first casualty. Not from predators or poison. One of their moisture suits malfunctioned. We had to extract him. He would survive, but was eliminated from the exercise. The humans had built a second fire. For ambience, according to Ruth's commentary, hour 12. One of the Zelthorians triggered her beacon, after a local parasite burrowed into her leg. Standard hazard. Medical team retrieved her within minutes. the humans had constructed what they called hammocks between trees and were sleeping suspended above the ground. When a predator approached their camp, Tommy threw a burning stick at it. The creature fled. Primitive but effective, Thresk admitted. Hour 18. Acid rain started. Heavy downpour. The non-human teams retreated into their shelters, sealing themselves in. The humans put on waterproof coverings and kept moving. They were checking traps. Traps. They had built traps. When did they have time to build traps? I asked nobody in particular. Jake pulled something from a snare. Another local creature. He held it up, examining it. Too small, he decided, and released it. They were catch and release hunting. On a survival exercise, I felt my carapace beginning to itch. Stress molt imminent. Hour 24. I had not slept. Could not sleep. Thresk had given up trying to understand human behavior, and was simply documenting everything for the academic archives. Someone at the xenobiology department was going to have a field day with this data. The acid rain had stopped, leaving the jungle steaming in the morning heat. The non-human cadets were rationing their emergency supplies carefully, as trained. They had maybe 48 hours of food left if they stretched it. The humans had food hanging from trees. Actual food. Preserved meat from that stalker Tommy had killed. Dried plants. Something Ruth called jerky, that looked like leather strips, but apparently tasted good. They have more food now than when they started, Thresk observed, pointing at the supply readout. That is not how survival exercises work, I muttered. Perhaps we should update the manual. Jake was doing something near the stream. I zoomed in. He was bathing. Bathing. In water that had a pH of 4.2. Water that could cause chemical burns on most species. His skin is not dissolving, I said stupidly. Thresk pulled up human biological data. Their skin secretes oils that provide some acid resistance. Also, their pain tolerance is. Wait. This cannot be correct. What? It says here that human recreational activities include something called hot pepper eating contests, where they consume plants bred specifically to cause mouth pain. For fun. I stared at him. You are joking. I do not joke. I am Hylenian. We do not have humor organs. That explains so much about you. Hour 30. The plenary team had an incident with local wildlife. A swarm of flying creatures attacked their tree platform. They held them off, but used their emergency flares doing it. Down to minimal supplies now, the humans had visitors too. A pack of six-legged predators, each the size of a small transport vehicle. We watched the camera feeds with mounting dread. Maya spotted them first. She made a clicking sound with her mouth, and the others immediately went quiet. Hand signals. They communicated with hand signals. Jake moved left. Tommy right. Ruth stayed at camp, pulling out a long knife. They are going to fight, I said. 6 of those creatures. 4 humans. We need to prep extraction. Wait, Thresk said. Jake had climbed another tree. Impossible. He did it in under 15 seconds. He was holding rocks. Multiple rocks. The predators approached the camp. Ruth stood there, knife ready, looking bored. Jake threw the first rock. It hit the lead predator right between its sensory organs. The creature stumbled. He threw another. And another. His accuracy was impossible. Each rock found its target. The predators scattered, confused. Tommy emerged from the brush behind them, making loud noises and waving burning branches. The creatures decided this was not worth the effort and retreated. Ruth put her knife away and went back to cooking. What just happened? I asked the universe at large. Humans used persistence hunting tactics common to pack predators, Thresk read from his data pad. They are apex predators on their own world. Category 5 threat level in standard galactic classification. They told me they were explorers and diplomats. They are also that. Apparently they contain multitudes. Hour 36. The Zelthorians had lost 2 more members. 1 to heat exhaustion, 1 to infected wounds from local thorns. They were down to 2 cadets. Still holding on, but barely. The humans had built a smoking rack for preserving more meat. They were preparing for long-term habitation. This was a 72-hour exercise. They were acting like they were moving in permanently. Maya was teaching the others something. I enhanced audio. So back in Kenya, my grandmother taught me this technique for finding water. You look for certain types of vegetation, watch where birds fly at dawn and dusk, and check for insect activity. Does it work here? Tommy asked. Found us 3 new water sources this morning. The filtration takes longer because of the acidity, but yeah, totally works. They were expanding their resource base. Actively improving their situation. The goal was survival. They were thriving. Hour 42. Emergency beacon. The remaining Zelthorians. One had been bitten by something venomous. We extracted both of them. The Planari were still holding on, but their food was gone. They were eating emergency rations now, each bite measured and calculated. The Morvelli had found a cave system with underground streams. Smart adaptation. They might actually make it. The humans were having what Ruth called a barbecue. They had constructed a grill from rocks, and were cooking multiple types of local fauna. The smell, according to atmospheric analysis, was surprisingly appealing and likely delicious. I hate this, I said. You hate that they are succeeding. I hate that they are making it look easy. Do you know how many species have failed this exercise? 47% wash out in the first day. Humans are different. Clearly. Hour 50. I got a call from command. Admiral Korseth himself, wanting a status update. How are the human cadets performing? He asked, his image flickering on my screen. They are performing adequately, sir. Adequately. I am reading reports that they have established a semi-permanent camp, mapped a 3-kilometer radius, identified 14 edible food sources, and neutralized 7 predator threats without firing a single shot. That is accurate, sir. Instructor Qorin, adequately does not cover this. What is going on down there? I tried to find words. Failed. Tried again. Sir, I think we may have fundamentally misunderstood what humans consider difficult. Explain. They keep comparing this to their recreational activities. One of them said, and I quote, "This is easier than camping in Yellowstone, because at least here the bears are smaller." Silence on the other end. Sir. I am reading the file on Yellowstone. Class 8 hostile region on Earth. They camp there. Voluntarily. With their offspring. Yes, sir. We dropped trained military cadets on a Class 5 world, and they think it is easier than their family vacations. Yes, sir. More silence. I need to recalibrate our entire threat assessment system, don't I? I believe so, sir. Hour 60. The Planari triggered their beacons. They had made it longer than most, but exhaustion and dehydration finally got them. Honorable effort. The Morvelli were still in their cave. Vital signs stable. They would make it. The humans had started a project. They were building something. What is that? Thresk asked. Zooming in.it looked like a table. They were building furniture. I give up, I said. I officially give up trying to understand this. Ruth was carving something into a piece of wood. Tommy had found clay somewhere and was making containers. Maya was weaving plant fibers into rope. Jake was expanding their shelter, adding a roof extension. They were not surviving. They were homesteading. Hour 72. Exercise complete. We descended to collect the remaining cadets. The Morvelli emerged from their cave, exhausted but proud. They had survived. 2 of them needed medical attention for minor issues, but they had made it. I congratulated them sincerely. Excellent work. Then we went to get the humans. Their camp was unrecognizable from 3 days ago. They had built a legitimate structure with multiple rooms. The fire pit had a chimney system. There were food stores that could last a week. They had even created a latrine system away from their water source. The 4 of them were sitting around the fire, looking relaxed and healthy. Exercise complete, I announced. Congratulations on your survival. Jake looked up. Oh, is it over already? We were just getting comfortable. Already. I felt my eye twitch. It has been 72 hours. Yeah, but we were planning to test out that cave system the Morvelli found. See if we could do some underground mapping. This was a survival exercise, not a vacation. Ruth laughed. Survival. Sir, no offense, but this was like Tuesday. Tuesday. You know, a regular day. Nothing special. Tommy stood up, brushing dirt off his uniform. The planet is pretty nice actually. Good water, decent hunting, interesting ecosystem. I would rate it maybe 6 out of 10 for difficulty. 6 out of 10, I repeated. This is a Class 5 hostile world. Right, but no large predators. The weather is pretty stable compared to monsoon season back home, and the plants are only mostly poisonous. Could be worse. Maya started packing her gear. Thanks for the trip though, sir. We should do this again sometime. Maybe somewhere with more challenging terrain. More challenging? Yeah, this was fun, but we did not even need the emergency supplies. Maybe next time pick somewhere with active volcanoes or something. I looked at Thresk. He looked at me. We had a moment of shared understanding. Everything we thought we knew about survival training was wrong. We loaded everyone back onto the transport. The Morvelli were sleeping, exhausted. The humans were playing cards again, discussing whether they should have tried eating the blue mushrooms they had found. Those were definitely poisonous, Ruth said. Probably, Jake agreed. But they might have been the fun kind of poisonous. The fun kind? You know, hallucinogenic. They were discussing recreational poisoning. I needed a drink. Back at the academy, I filed my report. I tried to be professional, objective, clinical. I failed. My report essentially read, humans are terrifying and we should never underestimate them again, ever, for any reason. Command called me in for a meeting. Admiral Korseth sat behind his desk, reading my report on a data pad. He looked up. So, I agreed. Humans call this camping. Apparently, sir. We need to redesign the entire survival curriculum. I recommend we just ask the humans what they consider difficult and start there. He nodded slowly. I am adding a note to all human personnel files. Threat assessment, extreme. Survival capability, beyond standard measurement. Recreational activities, potentially lethal to observers. Good idea, sir. As I left his office, I passed Jake in the hallway. He smiled at me. Hey, Instructor Qorin. Thanks again for the camping trip. Me and some other humans are planning a hiking expedition next month. Want to come? Where? Class-9 world. Ice sheets, methane storms, gravity twice galactic standard. Should be a good workout. I felt my carapace itch again. I will pass, thank you. Your loss. It is supposed to be beautiful this time of year. He walked away, whistling. After inviting me to what was essentially a frozen death trap, I went to medical and requested something for stress. The doctor, a kind Felna named Tisk, gave me a ATIV and patted my shoulder. First time training humans, she asked. How did you know? You have that look. We all get it eventually. Does it get better? No, she said cheerfully. But you get used to it. Sort of. Maybe. Actually, no, you don't. But you learn to cope. I took the ATIV. Somewhere in the academy, humans were probably planning their next adventure. Somewhere, they were looking at Class-9 Deathworlds and calling them vacation spots. Somewhere, they were rewriting every assumption we had about survival, danger, and acceptable risk, and honestly, I was just glad they were on our side, because any species that treats a Class-5 hostile environment like a casual weekend getaway is not a species you want as an enemy. They are absolutely terrifying, and they don't even know it.